Hello, my name is Anya Kreitney. I'm a program specialist at the Library of Congress and the lead on the library's National Ambassador for Young People's Literature program. Every 2 years, the Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden, announces a new National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. The task is a big one: fostering educational growth, empowering emotional development, and building interest in reading in our young people. As you know, this year's winner and newly reappointed for a historic third year is Jason Reynolds, a person who has breathed new life into the program and has been especially successful during the COVID era, which calls on all of us to live our lives online. As part of the program, the ambassador collaborates with one of the library's affiliate centers for the book. The goal is to spark new relationships with the library's literary emissaries and the library's wide network of partners. We know our state centers are on the ground and in local communities in ways we simply cannot replicate in Washington, D.C. Simply put, we want our talent to know your talent. This year, we couldn't have found a better partner than the Tennessee State Center for the Book, headquartered in Humanities, Tennessee. Jason's participation in this program is especially sweet, as moderator Amara Alexander was a former Einstein Fellow at the Library of Congress and also brings with her special insider knowledge, which I know she's put to good use as an educator right here in Tennessee. But before I turn it over to Amara and Jason, let me also thank Simon & Schuster, Jason's publisher, and whose staff has been phenomenal during the Jason's tenure as National Ambassador. Our program partner, Every Child a Reader, and Dollar General Literacy Foundation, which generously supports the National Ambassador program. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Amara and Jason. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Amara Alexander. I am a daughter, sister, friend, and educator. I am a Milken educator and the former Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator at the Library of Congress. I currently work in Hamilton County at Woodmore Elementary, where I am the assistant principal, and I'm so delighted to be with you today. I would like to welcome everybody on behalf of Humanities Tennessee. And I'd like to let you know, if you are watching on Facebook Live or YouTube, we would love for you to engage in tonight's conversation. Please feel free to ask questions and place them in the comments. We look forward to hearing from you. Note that you are available to buy one of Jason's books, and when you purchase them, it helps keep the book festival free. The Book Festival is a free nonprofit event that is supported in part by donations by individuals like you. If you appreciate the event and want to support it, please do so in the app or by visiting the website at www.humtn.org. I'm so excited to introduce to you today award-winning author Jason Reynolds. He has authored numerous books. A few are A Long Way Down, As Brave as You Are, and Look Both Ways. As stated, he is the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature at the Library of Congress, and currently doing a tour with his new initiative, Grab the Mic, Tell Your Story. I'm very pleased to introduce to you Jason Reynolds. Let's virtually welcome him. How are you doing today?
I'm good. You know, when I'm with the kids and we're doing on Zoom, I pretend I have the air horn. I'm good.
Use that for tomorrow's announcement. So I like that so much. So thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Tennessee virtually. Maybe one time. Have you ever been to Tennessee?
Oh yeah, many times.
Hey, wonderful. Maybe you've enjoyed some of our national parks, hiking, rock climbing. I don't know, moonshine or moonpie.
A little bit of all the things. You know what I mean? Isn't Alex Haley's house down there?
Say that again.
Isn't Alex Haley's house down there?
You know, I'm not sure.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah. Because I was down there at his house one time, and then I spent a lot of time in in Chattown and Knoxville and Memphis, and like I've done my time.
Yes, you've been to East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee. Yes, so you are very familiar with the state. So you know we're happy that you are joining us. So let's go ahead and get into it. So tell us about Grab the Mic, Tell Your Story.
You know, the premise and the concept behind Grab the Mic, Tell Your Story is actually pretty simple. I don't really, and it's funny because I almost feel like every time I say this, I think it's controversial in certain ways because because of what my role actually is supposed to be, which
Gotcha.
is to proliferate the ideas around and encourage reading and writing, right? But
Yeah.
here's the thing. I spend a lot of time with kids. And so what I know is that if you have a child or a young person who doesn't like reading, me showing up and being like, hey, you know what you should do? You should read, doesn't actually work.
Not at all.
It doesn't work, right? So I wanted to approach my platform a little differently, and I wanted to kind of come through the back door. And what I do know is that if you can convince young people that they have a story that matters, that reading and writing is not something that is separate from their own lives. It's not distant. It isn't even school, right? If you can separate it even from school, then I think that you have a better shot at convincing them that this is something that they can actually do, and not just do, but this is something that is that is already a part of who they are.
Yeah.
And so that's the premise, right? To grab the mic and tell your story. That way, we can acknowledge the value of your story so that you can then see perhaps the value in the stories that exist outside of you. Super simple.
Super simple. And it's important for kids to know that they do have a story that they can tell.
Yeah.
I think sometimes kids just like it's somebody else's story, or I'm watching this on TV, or I'm hearing like maybe it's a famous artist or something like that, and they just don't realize that they have a story to tell. So I think it's really important as educators and yourself as an author to be able to motivate students to know what you have a story, and it's very important to bring that to the world. Like you have something to give to people.
But you know, the other thing about it is I always heard it's because, you know, youngins will ask me like, well, do I have to tell everybody? And the truth of the matter is that no. So when we say bring it to the world, sometimes the world that we're talking about is the world of you. I think that because some young people are having very different stories than others, and some of those stories they feel a bit ashamed of. Now, of course, I wish they didn't feel ashamed of those stories, but that's not on me, right? That's not my place. Some of those things are hard to talk about, and they're private things, and they're intimate things, and they're painful things sometimes. And so for me, it's about, well, look, some of your classmates or some of your friends may shout their stories to the world, right, outside, but all of you, I hope, will be able to at least tell your stories to yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, which is really fortifying when you think about it, you know.
I mean, most definitely. I mean, I hope my students are watching. That's important for them to know that they have a story to tell, and it's important just to put that down on paper. And I think sometimes, I know I'm currently working, on a doctoral degree, and it's hard to me just to put it on paper. And I think it's important that we inspire students to know, or just anybody, just put it on paper because you do have something to tell.
Absolutely.
Yes. I love that. So if we have any questions, please let us know in the chat. So looking at your book, Look Both Ways, loved it, talking about stories. There's so many different stories, different tales within the book. So really, what was your inspiration of writing Look Both Ways?
You know, it's funny. Look, I'm a Simon & Schuster guy. I love Simon & Schuster. I've been with them for a long time. They've been supportive of me, and they believed in me, and when nobody else would believe in my work, you know.
Oh yeah.
But I find it funny that there's so much talk around. Like there's a weird thing about the short story in children's literature, where it's almost sort of like don't do the short story. Right? You can do it if it's in an anthology with a bunch of other writers, but don't do a short story collection for young people.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But I'm kind of like one of those people. I'm like a child. Like I was telling you before we got on, like I really am I'm not childish, but I am definitely childlike in a lot of ways. And one of the ways is like, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm like, oh, now I gotta do it. Right.
Yeah.
Now I have to, right. I got
push the limit.
Yeah, I gotta do it. I gotta push the line, push the boundary, right? Let me touch the stove. I gotta touch the stove, you know? And so simultaneously, as I'm thinking about all of this and having this back and forth, I'm also in schools every day, and I'm talking to teachers about how basically like the attention spans are shortening for all of us.
Yes.
Right. Not just for kids. I think we adults get a little like the kids,
for
all of us, right? The attention spans are shortening. And I remember when I was young, even though I didn't read much, I remember the textbooks were full of short stories, like Casey at the Bat, right? That was I'll never forget that. I don't remember the story itself, but I know that it was 4 pages. Casey at the Bat. I know it's about a little boy trying to hit the ball, right? Baseball story. I knew that. And so why have we gotten so far away from it? I don't understand. If the attention spans are getting shorter, let's let's match the attention span with the story. We can meet them where they are, and then we can start to sort of like push the attention spans to stretch them out, right? But we got to meet them where they are. It doesn't make sense to try to pull young people like to be like, oh, I'm gonna give you 300 pages, even though you have a 2-minute attention span from YouTube videos. Instead, it's like, let me figure out how to create sort of like the YouTube video version of a story.
Oh yeah.
To sort of connect them, and for the kids who are readers, you can read this thing cover to cover like a novel. Both things can happen simultaneously. So that was the beginning, and that's also, by the way, that's the reason why it doesn't say a short story collection, because it's bad. Because apparently in publishing, that's bad. It's bad marketing for children's literature. I hope that changes.
Hopefully, so like I never knew that. So that's why it has the
Tale told in 10 blocks, right? I wanted to call it Look Both Ways, a novel in short stories, right? But short stories has a weird connotation, and I hope we can change that connotation. And I hope that book is one of the books that is like, yo, this works. It can work, right? So that was the beginning. The second thing I wanted to do is I was trying to figure out a way to write 10 stories that explore the autonomy of childhood, right? Because I really think that children live in their own world, and they're having a very interesting and different experience than the rest of us are having.
And it was, for me, it was interesting how each tale was very different, but still interconnected.
Of course, but isn't that our lives?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
You and I could have a conversation if we were off this situation. If you and I had 10 minutes to sort of compare notes about where we're from, what our family, who our families are, where we went to school. Eventually, within a 10-minute conversation, we'll find a mutual friend.
Oh yeah,
right? Our lives intersect. All of our lives intersect. We just don't spend enough time to figure out what the intersections are. Right. And so these 10 stories are meant to sort of serve as almost like a petri dish. They're like a sample set of what the world is. Right. You got a 15-minute liminal space where young people are not being supervised. And in that liminal space, they are completely autonomous. Right. That's the space that you walk home from school. No adults. Adults in school, adults at home. But that in between, no adults. Right.
You're right.
And they get to sort of explore who they actually are when
make trouble.
Exactly. All those things, which I did as a child, which a lot of us did as children. And in the meantime, also learn something about themselves and learn something about the world around them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love that. And so I'm thinking one of my favorite tales from the book was The Low Cut Strikes Again. I don't know why that resonated with me so much, but a group of kids that are stealing money, there were only pennies. And while I'm reading, like my teacher brain is, clicking on like, those are kids in my class. And so sometimes, we think one thing, but then it turns out to be something totally different because the kids were actually stealing money to buy ice cream for one of the kids' parents.
Absolutely.
And
you know what it's like. You know what that's like. You know what it is to be talking to a kid and you've already decided that you've made up your mind about who that child is, and then all of a sudden you learn a little more. You listen a little more, and you realize there's a whole backstory here. There's a trail behind this child that is sort of making this child who this child is, and that this kid isn't a bad kid. This kid is up against something. Right. Or this, you see what I mean? And there's something
that's totally right. And I think want to highlight that, just as educators, it's important to learn your students.
Exactly.
You know the story.
You know what else is interesting about the low cuts that I love? And it's something that no one ever talks about, but I think it's super interesting. And it's something that's really intentional in my work is you never see them rob anybody. Doesn't exist in the story.
No, you just know that they're
the narrator says it, right? The narrator says it. The narrator sort of says it, right? And sets it all up. But there's not a single moment in the story that you see them do it. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's definitely happening. But I wanted to make the intentional decision to not actually show them shaking down kids, right? And we get to make those decisions. And the reason why is because if I show that, then what happens is people get to sort of like bite down on the robbery, right? Bite down on the thieving, bite down on these things instead of focusing on getting to know who these children actually are. There's not a moment in that story where you see them do it. It doesn't happen in the story. And that's very, very intentional as a way to say, like, I'm not going to let you all use this either as a way to keep the story out of kids' hands or use it for kids as a way for them to sort of drill down on this moment of quote unquote disobedience, right? And instead of let's get to know who they actually are, and then let's follow them on this journey that's actually an emotional journey to figure out why it is they do what they do.
That's deep. I like that. That was definitely my favorite story out of that. So thinking about the teacher, kind of going on with that. So looking back at your great school experience, what advice would you give teachers to engage boys to read and write?
First, assume that they can. You know what I hear?
Well, I mean, I work in a Title I school. We just got off of the priority list for the state of Tennessee. We're super excited, but assume that your kid knows.
Yeah, assume that they can. But you
Yeah.
know why? Because what the narrative is, this is what I hear nonstop. Boys don't read. Boys
Yeah.
don't read. Boys don't read. And it's like, well, if that's the narrative that we lead off with, then I understand why they don't.
Mhm.
Right? Instead of thinking about it like perhaps boys aren't reading at the moment, but boys
Yeah.
will read. Boys will read. Let's figure out how to crack that code. But first, we have to adjust the narrative a little bit. And I think the narrative right now is boys don't, boys don't, boys don't, boys don't. The second thing, though, is I think a lot of it's funny. Boys at that age are also tremendous followers. Tremendous.
I see that a lot every day.
Tremendous, right? So the real goal for me, even when I'm giving lectures and I'm talking to kids,
Mhm.
is to figure out who the leader is. Right? Boys at that age, it's actually pretty simple. Right?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
find the leader, because if you can get the leader hooked,
Oh yeah.
that's it, right? There's always a leader. There's always something. He's always the one that's the most rambunctious, the kid that's talking the most, the kid that's making the most noise and being the most disruptive. You find something for him, and you find something for a whole bunch of them. That's how it works, right? That's how it was when that doesn't change.
It doesn't.
It doesn't change. And so I would also talk about and to empower the leader, right? To make sure that the leader knows that he's recognized as the leader without giving any sort of special, you got to be careful about favoritism, but making sure the leader understands like you have leadership ability.
Oh yeah.
So we have an opportunity if you like this book, right, and you pick something that they'll like, like for whatever reason my books are working, but there's other people, right? You find these whoever the read Jerry Craft, read Kwame Alexander, whatever it is, and you make sure that you get that young and you lean on that. I always lean on the leader of any group. You know what I mean? And I think that works. The other thing, though, I also think is I wonder if we're asking the right questions. I just wonder, I think young boys, man, my fear is that we write them off so early.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, are we just asking the right questions? Are we willing to embarrass ourselves to gain their trust? Because a lot of these young, and especially young boys, have been failed by adults by the time they're 11 years old.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on young girls and what they've experienced by 10 or 11 years old. Right. And so a lot of times what it has to do with because I remember being a kid, my mom's a school teacher. She used to always say the kids, all they want to know is, well, who are you?
That's right. Who are you and what's your story?
What's your story? Now, if you tell me a little bit of your story, maybe I tell you a little bit of mine. But I can't, but like people always say, Jason, I can't get them to read. No. You said it right. You can't get them to read.
Yeah.
I come to their school and I can get them to read. You know why? Because they trust me. You know why they trust me? Because I tell them some of my business. I give them a little bit of me. They don't know you other than you an authoritative figure in their lives. They don't know you got a whole life, a whole history, a whole past. They don't know that you know what it feels like to starve too.
I think you really have to be able to connect.
Got to connect
and share stories. You can't just come in and just be the teacher. You have to, let your guard down and let people know who you are, what's your story. Just as you talk about in, look both ways. There's a story, there's a connection, and even with your initiative, grab the mic, tell your story. Everybody has a story, and it's important. As teachers, we have to make sure that story that we're giving the space and place for boys, for students to be able to do that.
You know what I just bought last week? Actually somebody gave it to me, a lovely gentleman on Twitter. He gave me his PlayStation. And here's the thing. I haven't had a PlayStation. I haven't had a video game system in 20, almost over 20 years. I haven't played video games since I was a 14, 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And now I have this video game system. It's in my house. I got it all hooked up. Took me forever. I hooked it up. And everybody's like, well, Jay, why do you have this? And it's going to take so much time for you to learn how to play. And it's like, yep. And in me learning to play this game, I have another connecting point. I can go into any school in America and say, hey, guys, I love Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And all the kids are going to be like, oh, yo, who you play with? Yeah, that. And now immediately, whatever else I say, they're a little more keen to hearing because they know that I like the things that they like, even if I don't like it. I'm willing to put forth the effort to learn it because they really want it. Because even if I don't like it, they want to like the fact that I like the fact that they like it.
That's right.
Right?
That's really what it is. You like the fact that you like that. I like that.
I like the fact that you like it. You know what I mean? And I know some, and I got a little bit of language around it, just enough to get them to bite down.
Yeah. Please come back to Chatham. Come to Tennessee.
Whenever, you know.
please come back. But I'm going to hop into your new book, Stuntman. In the meantime, as I told you earlier, I was laughing the entire time while reading the book. It's a graphic novel. I think that's talking about getting boys to read. Is that why? I mean, what was your inspiration for this book and maybe thinking about boys? I know you're writing. You know, your passion is getting boys to read more. So about that.
You know, for this one, there were a few things happening. I wanted to figure out. I love Dave Pilkey.
Oh yeah.
I love Dave Pilkey. I think Dave Pilkey. Look, people can say whatever they want to say. I think Dave Pilkey is a stone cold genius. I think that what he did with Captain Underpants is the most difficult thing to do. And he did it, and he did it well, and he did it continuously, and is still doing it with Dogman and everything else.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like you can't. That ain't something that's to be. That ain't nothing to sneeze at, right? Like that's hard to do.
Yes.
And I wanted to see if I could do it, and I wanted to see if I could share. You hear this, Dave? Share that space with you. I just want to share it, right?
Yeah.
But I also wanted to figure out a way to address something that I remember being affected by as a child, and that's divorce. And so, is there a way to create a story that deals with divorce, but it's really about a knucklehead little boy and his friend in an apartment building, getting up to the shenanigans, but also dealing with his mental illness, like his anxiety, dealing with his desire to be a helper and to save the people that he loves, including his own parents, even if he's only saving them from themselves. What does it mean to be both anxious and courageous simultaneously, which is what so many of our young people are?
Yes.
Who I was, right?
Yes.
And my hope is to make something where young people read it and they laugh like you know, and they laugh and they think it's silly and funny and everything else. And then adults can read it and say, you know, we can use this book to talk to our young people about what's happening in our changing family. Right? Because my mother didn't know what to tell me about my parents' divorce when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
It was very hard on us, on me and my siblings.
Yeah.
But I think this book, if I had this book, maybe it would have helped me understand a little better, you know?
Yeah. And I like how you address so many topics. You talk about the mental, the frets, as you call it. Then in the meantime.
And what the meantime is. We can't spoil it.
Okay.
But like in the meantime, or even thinking about, you know, because I also want to show like a black kids, right? Black kids, because I love black children.
Yes.
And that's something everybody knows about me.
Yeah.
And to show black children in this space. By the way, Dave also has I want to shout out Dave because one of those characters is black. Shout out to the little black boy in those books. But a black boy and a black girl in an apartment building full of black people with black families, black extended families, right? There's a grandmother who is just on the couch and like sleep and, you know, like, it's like, I wanted to write like something that felt culturally textured and still did all these things at the same time and for everybody at the same time.
Yes. So go check it out, the new one that's coming out. So you can go, Jason.
No, I was saying it's coming out soon. Come out the end of November.
Okay, look out for it, everyone. So we have a question, and shameless plug, it is my mother. So
yeah, it's almost perfect that it's your mother. Yeah. Shout out to mom.
Yeah, shout out to mom. So she asked, when did you know you were a writer, and what was the teacher that most inspired you to write?
You know what? It's funny. Every day I ask myself if I'm a writer or not. I think for various reasons. Number one, writing is very difficult, and you never know if you're good or not. Even now, after all the things and all the acclaim, that insecurity is real.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. And sometimes it's crippling. You know, everybody gets to see me as like Jason, the public version of me. But if you talk to my agent, my editor, my mother, they'll tell you that I'm actually a basket case most of the time. because I'm so bound by the anxiety of this thing because I don't want to let the kids down. And
Yeah.
I don't want to let myself down. I don't want, like, I work so hard at this because it matters to me.
That's
Um,
right.
but that causes some anxiety, right? And I do have clinical anxiety. I like to talk about it because I think it's
Important.
and normal, right? Like, it is what it is. I
Yes.
got clinical anxiety. I'll have it for the rest of my life. I've had it for a million years, and I live with it, and I manage it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are days where I don't always feel like a writer. The other thing though is that I don't know if I ever want to look. I write for a living. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And I love it. I'm careful about calling myself that because what happens when I can't do it no more? Or if that day comes, do I lose if I've attached so much of my personality or so much of my identity to it? Then what do I do then? You know, I'm just a regular dude who writes for a living. It's my gig. You know what I mean? People who deliver trash for a living, they don't connect their identity to their work like artists do.
Yeah.
It's a gig and it's something that I love, and I'll love it as long as I love it. And if for some reason I can no longer do it, I gotta still be okay with Jason the person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now the other question that your mom asked is, was there a teacher who inspired me to write? Yes, there were two teachers. I had in high school. I think she taught my sophomore year. She taught sophomore English. Her name was Miss Blaufus. Any of you who read Spider-Man, the teacher in Spider-Man is based on her. Same name and everything. I don't think I changed the name either. And yeah, and she was the first person to recognize that I could do it. She was the one who told my mom, like, "Hey, look, I don't even think he knows it, but this is something that you should look into. Maybe you should go to a good writing school when he goes to college. Maybe like he's got something." She also like started a creative writing class because she wanted to give me a place to go to work out some of that stuff. And so she was the first. And then my second was I had a global studies teacher my senior year, Mr. Williams, who he taught me how to be a human. You know, which I think is.
What do you mean by that?
What'd you say?
I said, what do you mean by that? He taught you how to be a human.
You know, there's a story I told, and for all of you, you can see it on YouTube. I gave a commencement speech for a university a couple years back where I told the story. But there was this moment where he brought a fish to class, and he's like, "Oh, you know, we're gonna name the fish. We're gonna do this whole thing." You know, it's a whole, but we're all like, whatever, And he's like, "Look, the only rule is you guys can feed the fish every day, but you can't touch the fish. Whatever you do, don't touch the fish." And so he's like, "If you touch the fish for any reason, then I'm going to suspend you." And we're like, "Okay, cool, whatever." Or I'm going to give you detention or whatever it was. And so one day, a week or two later, he comes to class and he takes the fish out of the bowl and he puts it on the floor, and the fish starts to die. And we all gather around, and two young ladies pick the fish up and they throw the fish back in the tank, and the fish survives. And he tells them that they're in trouble, that they're going to get detentions or suspensions, and to go down to the principal's office and get zeros for the day. And yeah, it was a whole thing. And they were pissed about
they saved the fish.
But they saved the fish. And that's what he said. He said, "Look, but as you're leaving, hold your heads up. You did the right thing. But sometimes doing the right thing has consequences." I learned two valuable things that day. Number one, I can't deal with the discomfort of cowardice. And number two, it's always women. Those were the two things I learned. Seriously, and it changed my life forever.
Really? I think it's important to have people that influence your life. And as an educator, I hope, sometime between, kindergarten and 12th grade, and, you have somebody that you can speak of as highly as you have of, an educator that is really poured into you and saw something in you that you probably did not even see in yourself. That's powerful.
And we're both, both of them are very good friends of mine. Both of them. I talk to them all the time. Where I'm at their houses, like they're very good friends of mine still to this day.
That's amazing. I wish I had that, Jason. I don't think I have.
You're gonna be that to somebody else. You'll be that.
Most definitely. I think last year I had a student that graduated. I originally started in Alabama for a really long time, and I had a student reach out to me. She was graduating, and she just wanted to say thank you. And I think as an educator, that is really the highest compliment for your student to say, Miss Alexander, you impacted my life. Thank you so much for what you did. And she actually said that she was going to go into the profession of being an educator. So that's just,
That's it. That's on you. You got one.
That's all. That's all you can hope for.
You got one.
I think it's Diane Hall. I think it's her pronunciation. You asked, was my mom was a mom a teacher? Yes, she was a teacher. She was an elementary teacher for a really long time. Then went into higher education, and she actually taught teachers how to be teachers. Funny story. I don't know if it's funny or not. She was one of my professors in my first introduction to education class, and I did not want people to know that was my mother.
Did you get an A?
Say it again.
Did you do well in the class?
I think so. I will say one time we took an exam. I thought I failed it. I called my father and I said, Daddy, I don't think I did good on this test. I think my mother's going to fail.
Talk about disappointment, like hitting a test, like, this is good.
But no, all has ended well. I did graduate, and
you made it.
Yeah, I made it, and now I'm an assistant principal, which has been an interesting journey in itself. So
I'm sure.
Hey, it's going good, So if you have any other questions, please let us know. Put them in the chat. So I know you do a lot of things for boys and reading and writing. Are there any other things that you are trying to do to impact young boys outside of literature?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out ways to get young boys to understand the importance of accessing their emotions. Vulnerability is, I think, what we need. So like, even all the books are really just about boys being vulnerable.
They are most definitely.
Like, all of them are the same thing. It's just about boys, like different situations and different scenarios where boys have an opportunity to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's because I want young men in the world to mirror that. Like, I think we could cut down on a lot of stuff if young men knew how to allow themselves to cry. Just get it out, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you see it young men just holding it and holding it and holding it. And the response is sort of like class disruption. And it's like, look, I always tease the kids when I'm in school. I'm like, look, for all the young boys in here who are dealing with, who are not knuckleheads in class, and you're this, that, and you're disrupting, and all the girls around you know that you really just need to deal with your feelings.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at you like, bro, just go ahead and take a second and deal with the things, right? And I think that's something that I wish we could, and it's not their fault. It's something that I think they've been socialized. We all were raised that way. No, don't cry. What you crying for? Boys don't cry. Boys, toughen up. And it's like, well, what if I feel like crying? Right? I cry because it feels natural to me. And you're telling me that the natural thing in me is unnatural. And then when I react, or when I explode, or when it becomes a sort of powder keg, then you tell me that I've been disobedient, that I've done something wrong. But I've disobeyed my feelings first because you taught me to.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to figure out, how do we broach that conversation? How do we figure out how to let young men be free?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think you do a lot of it in your writing, and so bringing it back to the stories that you are telling through your literature and the things that you are doing. We have one question from someone. Said they watched Ghost at Nashville Children's Theater. Phenomenal. Did you see it?
So I was there for the opening night.
Oh, wonderful.
But I did not see it. I could not stay. So I was there. I know it's ridiculous. I popped into town really quick because I had to, there's always like a thing. I'm always on the move. I have to do this. And I popped in. I met the cast. I gave everybody a hug, told everybody how grateful I was, and then I had to get up out of there. So I actually did not get to actually see the show, but I heard it was amazing. And I hope one day I have an opportunity to check it out.
I say that's awesome. Like, I wondered, they recorded it so that you could view it.
Sure, they gave me a jersey. I got a jersey. Like, I got an actual Defenders jersey, which is super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's what's up. Okay, let me think. So thinking about just your stories and things of that nature, what probably has been I would say maybe the most difficult to write, that were just really perplexing for you to just get the story on paper?
I'll tell you, I mean, there's been a lot of tough ones. I think, look, I think about, like, let's say pick a book like Look Both Ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the story Call of Duty, which is one of my favorite stories in the book. which is about, for those who haven't read it, it's a complicated tale about allyship and acceptance and friendship and love and fear and bullying, right? Around homophobia, and things of that nature. And I wanted to write it because I grew up with so many gay friends and whom I love.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a straight Black boy, there was always a feeling from so many other straight black boys, it was like, you can't be around your gay boys because people might think you're gay. And I was always kind of like, but I don't really understand what the big
What's the problem?
I was kind of like, I don't know if I get, I'm constantly, I'm like, I don't know if I get it, guys. I don't know what the problem
what's the deal
is. And I look back now, and I was raised by a mom who was very much like, listen, this is how it go. You're gonna love your friends. You're gonna love who love you. You're gonna, right. This is it. Like, and very simple. And I think I wanted to figure. So we have so many narratives around, especially right now, coming out about like young people who are dealing or accepting or sort of standing in their various identities, right? And it's beautiful, beautiful books by beautiful writers who are making incredible work as we continue to live in an ever evolving world, right? It's an amazing thing. But what we aren't seeing enough of is what exactly is the example for the straight friend, for the quote unquote straight friend.
Actually, yeah.
Right? What exactly is their role? What is the role of the ally in this space? We have tons of talks about allyship and race conversations these days. We have tons of talks, all of this, but we don't ever really talk about, well, what about the boy in class whose best friend is gay? What do you do in the situation? Well, furthermore, that story is complicated because the kid that gets beat up and the kid that the story is about, we don't even know if this kid is gay or not. And honestly, it's the bully, actually dealing with deep-seated feelings that they can't quite understand how to wrestle with, right? Like, he's the bully is the true victim in the story.
Very much so.
Right. So, like, what does that mean to figure out? So I wanted to write a really complex tale around identity and friendship and bullying and allyship and the ability to be oneself, if not, what it might look like if you can't be yourself, if you can't have enough adults around you to help you access certain feelings. What it looks like is projection onto another person, unfairly, and so all of that. I think these are the things that it was a really hard story to write because you can't get that wrong. You can't.
Right. You can't. You got to get that. Yeah. You can't mess up the message that you're trying to portray. You don't want to, offend.
Exactly.
That it's precise. So yeah.
There's so much at stake, right? There's so much at stake in a very simple 10-page story. And you have to write it in a way that just walks a really fine line. Because I'm also a banned person. I get banned all the time, right? And so I was like, all right, how can I write this in a way where like I can refute it if I need to?
Yeah.
I can argue it if I need to, right? So nothing is really said. Nothing is really
just implied. Yeah.
So
you just kind of go with it. Not you being banned, not you, Jason.
Oh my God. Don't get me started. I'm so sick of people. Oh man. Listen, I love everybody, but I'm sick of everybody. Adults gotta relax. You know what I mean? The grown-ups just gotta relax. I think even all the banning is like, man, I'm banned because adults don't trust kids. It ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's the truth, right? It ain't got nothing to do with my work. It's about the fact that you don't trust your children. You don't trust that they're sophisticated enough, or that they don't already have cell phones. Right? That they don't know what's going on in the world. And if anything, I'm trying to figure out how to provide them with a little bit of vocabulary and some lexicon to help them process and synthesize that information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I like that. So we have a few moments. I have another question for you. So they said, what do you feel about the short story form? Do you think it is harder or easier?
I used to think it was the hardest form. And I stayed away from it for a long time because I would read short stories all the time and I'd be like, what? Right? I would get to the end and just be like,
that's it. Yeah.
Because it never felt like a story. Right. So like it's weird the way that we sort of we turn short stories into like they're like the gray areas tales. And it's weird whereas every other part of our lives when we're told a story, we're told it's a beginning, middle, and end. right? We're told that like the story arc, you know what I mean? And with short stories, it's more sort of like an extracted bit of a broader sort of contextualized story, right? And you're almost taking a scene of a story and figuring out how to build a whole world within a scene. And I wonder how much of it is actually successful and how much of them are not, but we just don't say they're not. Because I'm like, I don't get some of these, right? But I read a short story by Ann Petrie.
Okay.
Years ago called Solo on the Drums. And it changed everything for me. Because I refused to write shorts for long. And I read this short story. It's a very simple story about a jazz drummer, right?
Okay.
And he goes to the club to play with the band. And he's in there and he's playing his drum solo and he's soloing and he goes way past the count. And now he's just soloing out into the ether. He's just playing. They're all looking at him like, bro, okay, like let's come back in, right? And the reason he's looking at the piano player, you know, he's soloing. And then you find out that the reason that he's playing the drum so violently and why he's looking at the piano player is because he just found out that his wife had an affair with that man. Right. Wow. And it's just genius. And it's this genius sort of stuff. And it's like, boom, that moment comes and you're like, oh, boom, boom, boom. Right. My brain explodes.
Yeah.
That is sort of where like the low cuts come from. Or where, right. It's like, what's happening? Then it's like this slight turn and you're like, And that sort of became my personal style. And now I love the short. I've written so many of them. I love the
short. So we can expect more like Look Both Ways.
Yeah, maybe. I love shorts. Maybe I'd love to do a Look Both Ways or some version of that for an older kid, for older teenage, perhaps. I don't know, but I love that. I love shorts, and I'll be trying to move on, right? I try to write things and move on, and shorts give you an opportunity to make a thing and move forward. You know?
Yeah. Well, in your next one, the street can be Pat Dean Street, Pat Dean Drive.
I got you.
And you can have a character, you know.
Her name might be maybe. I don't know. Maybe I have a character, Miss Tammy. Maybe we do Miss Tammy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know.
But not Mark.
I mean, you know, we'll see. Miss Tammy made you. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do Miss Tammy first. Miss Tammy, if you're listening, we're gonna put you in there first.
You're gonna call me and be like, yes, I get to. And so anonymous person said, what is a perfect short story form?
It's a good question. Here's my thing. First of all, to me, and my friends will argue this to the death, but to me, a short story should be short, first and foremost.
Yeah.
In today's time, we have long shorts, right? Short stories be like 40 pages. And I'm like, this ain't no short story. If you go back to the 70s, the 60s, and the 50s, they were writing like, Langston Hughes wrote 3-page short stories. All the simple stories are like 3 pages.
Yeah.
Mega Kincaid, right? If you've ever read the short story Girl is what, 2.5 pages, right? Like there's like, I think there's something to be said about being succinct. So first, what I say is that a short story should be a short story.
Yeah.
Right? A short story. Second, I think that the tricky part about a short is that you have to learn everything you need to learn about the characters in the middle of in motion.
Gotcha.
Right? So like the way that a short has to function for me is everything I need to learn about the character, I just need to know by the end of the story, but I'm learning it as the character is in motion. So if that character has an addiction issue, we may not find that out until halfway through the story when they go to cop, right? Or when they lift up their leg and you might see tracks in their leg, right? Like small things, right? And you create these nuances and these subtleties and sort of build this character as the character is also living in the plot. And you have to do it this way because you have a limited amount of time. You have a limited space. So everything has to be moving simultaneously. The plot, the character development, the secondary character development, the conflict, everything has to move. And if anything, the beauty is if you're smart, you can start the story in the conflict. So we're already in the conflict.
Yeah, we're there. Yeah.
Or
there.
Right. Or you could allude to the conflict or allude to the complication by using other characters. A prime example is there's another short, I think it's called, it might even be a short play, I think, actually. Mm-hmm. And it's called In Arabia We'd All Be Kings. Have you heard of this?
No, I have not.
Well, and it's simple story. Basically, it's a bunch of men at a bar arguing, or just like they're having a beer and they're just talking trash about their lives and about what it's like, what this job is like, and this job, and they're arguing about this and complaining about this and complaining about this and complaining, and they're just talking, right? They're having this moment of them at the bar complaining about their lives. And then at the end, it just says, one of them looks up and he says, in Arabia, we'd all be kings. That's it. Right. And it's just this it's like this one turn, and you're like, wow. And that's the story, right? I think those are the best of the shorts.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Listen, that's what I'm here for. You know what I mean?
Hey, you are schooling me. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. But thank you so much for joining us this evening, Jason. I've enjoyed the dialogue.
I was going to play. What happened? I brought you.
We're playing. Okay.
47.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
Classroom management, Amara. Classroom management. Yo, what happened? Miss Tammy, tighten it up. She needs some classroom management. You gotta get back.
Okay, they haven't cut us off, so let's play one. Come on, let's play. Let's go again. Come on, let's go.
All right, I'm gonna play. Hurry up. I'm gonna pull 2. Okay, now you got to do it. I'm gonna pull 2 cards. We'll do it at the same time. You ready?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna pull 2 cards. Let's see what we got. All right, why don't we do? What would you make with a boxing glove? Okay, here we go. It's a tough one.
I think you are setting me up here.
No, it's tough though. It's tough. So a padlock. So it's a combination lock. This one. Whoops. Combination lock. That's what that is. A combination lock.
Okay.
And a boxing glove. Good luck with that one.
Okay. Can you show me the pictures again?
Come on. A combination lock and a boxing glove.
A lock glove.
What's a lock glove?
You're making this hard.
It's supposed to be hard. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be hard. What would you do? How would a lock glove work? I mean, that's cool, but just tell me how it works.
So how would it? No, that's too simple.
No, there's no. Tell the kids there's no wrong answers.
So like if I had the glove and I want to make sure it's on me or it's mine, I'm gonna lock it to make sure it's like my padlock, it's my lock glove. That probably really was not good or creative, but not at
all creative. I mean, it's weird, Amara, because I really was rooting for you.
You were rooting for me?
Miss Tammy, you see this happening, Miss Tammy.
I will say, hey, it is. I've been in school all day. I know we can't. Okay, try again. Do it again. We got it on.
All right, well, I'll pick another one.
Okay,
you ready? Here we go. A tambourine.
Oh, okay.
I know you know what a tambourine is.
I sure do, because I went to a gospel concert.
Yeah, something told me that. And a pair of scissors. Come on, Amara. I believe in you.
Oh, I believed in me too.
Oh my God.
Okay, when you get the shouting and the tambourine, get the playing, you just probably need to, no, I can't.
It's not going well.
It's not going. I don't.
And you know what this proves? That children are more imaginative than adults.
Oh, and I'm thinking of my educator friends like, oh my gosh, Amari can't think of anything. I feel like I did not do really good. I am so sorry.
It's okay. I'm glad we had this experience. It's almost like proof of concept. Children are better. That's all we need to know. That's the goal here. Children are better.
But I think that...
Man.
Oh my. Okay, so we're going to have to get that game so you can play with my kids. And I'll have to, tweet it out and be like, hey, what the kids did way better than Miss Alexander. Okay. We're going to claim that it was a long day.
Listen, it happens to the best of us. I put you on the spot. It's okay. You know what I mean? So okay, I'm going to hear my answers to these questions.
Yes, please give me your answers.
What was the first one? The first one was a combination lock and the boxing glove.
Yeah.
Okay, for combination lock and a boxing glove, I would probably invent something where you could use the combination to adjust the size of the glove. So the combination doesn't have to stay on the lock, right? You can take the combination out and you can create some sort of process that will adjust the size of the glove by turning the knob. Right, so bigger hands become bigger hands, smaller hands, turn it back the opposite way. The other one was tambourine and what was it? Tambourine and what? Scissors?
Scissors.
Tambourine and scissors, I think would be dope, especially if you're dealing with, let's say you have a child, and let's say that child, you for some reason are in a part of the house or, and that child gets into your scissors and you don't want that child to hurt themselves. And so you basically have a built-in alarm system using the ringing parts of the tambourine. You put the little chiming things on the scissors. So when that child gets to cutting, you can run in and be like, yo, those scissors are not for you. It's almost like a child safety proof joint.
You're right. I think you really had those prepped.
I did not. I promise you I did. We could do this all day. This is my job.
they came too easy, and you just were like, yeah, this, Amara. I'm just gonna throw this and give it to her.
Look, you could.
Hey.
I told you, you should have brought your deck. You should have had a deck, and then we could have done it. It's okay. Like next time.
You tricked me, but that's okay though. That's okay. That's all right. This is how this. I am letting Dr. Hayden know. Like, I think, Jason tricked me, but that's okay.
It's whatever you have to tell yourself. It's all. It's all good.
Oh my goodness. So this has been fun. Hold on. Okay, this has been fun. I hope everybody has enjoyed our conversation here with Jason. It's been great. Please make sure you check out more at the Southern Festival of Books. Thank you for joining. Jason, do you have any final words after you beat me in the game that you created?
Nah, I love everybody watching. I appreciate you, Amara, and thank you for doing this with me.
Yes, I have fun. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a good evening.